Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is April 5th, 2023, and we are in the Old Testament, and we're going to start the book of Leviticus today. Chapter 1, Leviticus chapter 1. All right. Third book in the Pentateuch, which is the 5 books written by Moses. Lots of laws and commands and feasts. In fact, most people will call this a book of the law. But there's a few more things in there than that. I keep kind of hitting on this point that as I call myself a Christian, I really don't need all the laws that are in here, because under Christ I have a commandment of love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your fellow person like you would love yourself. As long as I'm doing those two, then I've covered every commandment and every prophecy that's in this Old Testament. So why should I read the Old Testament? Well, again, I'm not reading the Old Testament to go back and say, you know what? If I had Jesus and I had a big rock with commandments on it, then I would be much better off than I am now. No, if I have Jesus, that's it. I don't need anything else. I'm saved. I go to heaven. Jesus is all sufficient. I don't want to add or subtract anything from that. I don't want to go back and say, oh, you know what? If I started observing this Passover thing, that would be cool. You know what? If I added that to Jesus, then I would be better off. Well, no, now you're just pushing Jesus out of the way to bring something of your own in there and saying, oh, it's not just Jesus, it's me and Jesus that are working on this. It's Jesus alone. Paul said it best, all I know is Christ crucified. That was good enough for Paul. And Paul actually was a first century Jew who had memorized just probably all of the Old Testament and lived by it. And even he understood that, hey, you know what? I don't need that anymore because I have Jesus. There's still value in it because he did quote it a few times. In fact, all of them quoted it. Jesus, Paul, Peter, all the gospel in Acts, we get it quoted. So there's information there. That's why I'm reading it, for information, because it teaches me about who God is. It teaches me about how I'm supposed to kind of relate to God. It teaches me how sin entered the world and how it took us over and drove a wedge between us and God. And it shows us how there was really nothing we could do to fix it. That's why we needed a Savior to come. So lots of value in the Old Testament, as long as I'm not going in there to pull something out and bring it up and add it to Jesus. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Leviticus chapter 1. Now the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tabernacle of meeting, saying, Speak to the children of Israel. Say to them, when any one of you brings an offering to the Lord, you shall bring your offering of the livestock, of the herd of the flock. If his offering is a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own free will at the door of the tabernacle of meeting before the Lord. Then he shall put his hand on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted on his behalf to make atonement for him. He shall kill the bull before the Lord, and the priest Aaron's son shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood all around on the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of meeting. And he shall skin the burnt offering and cut it in its pieces. The sons of Aaron the priest shall put the fire on the altar and lay the wood in order on the fire. Then the priest Aaron's son shall lay the parts, the head, the fat in order on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. But he shall wash its entrails and its legs with water. And the priest shall burn all on the altar as a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord. If his offering is of the flocks, of the sheep, or of the goats, as a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring a male without blemish. He shall kill it on the north side of the altar before the Lord. And the priest Aaron's son shall sprinkle its blood all around on the altar, and he shall cut it into its pieces with its head and its fat, and the priest shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. But he shall wash the entrails and the legs with water. Then the priest shall bring it all and burn it on the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord. And if the burnt sacrifice of his offering to the Lord is of birds, then he shall bring his offering of turtle doves, of young pigeons. The priest shall bring it to the altar, wring off its head, and burn it on the altar. Its blood shall be drained out of the side of the altar, and he shall remove its crop with its feathers, and cast it beside the altar on the east side, into the place for ashes. Then he shall split it at its wings, but shall not divide it completely. And the priest shall burn it on the altar. On the wood that is on the fire, it is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord. May God bless the reading of his word. May God bless you. Bye.